I mean, he's tired.
I know.
He was falling asleep in the thing.
So you got a big crowd for Thanksgiving, huh?
Still tired.
We done? What's the matter?
Recording.
How
My
long
voice?
have
Funny.
you recorded?
He's at, you know, it's funny, he asks, he says, where's the best light in the house?
We don't have
We
good
don't-
enough. It's too bad. It was a really interesting picture. I had wanted to do, you know, I kind of got into doing it for a while, and then
On the wall and take a picture of it, because you've got
this
the
is
light.
dark. Here.
Yeah, but he's got the light right on
Yeah.
the camera, which
Right.
is what he's doing there. But this one was...
That's it.
Eddie was there?
Fascinating.
So we may have too many, more friends. Well, I mean, just ran again. The thing is that supposedly they're changing the law by 92. Right? Myself, I'm trying to hear it.
Immediately.
Immediately, $2 million.
Here he is, we were.
James. That's right. I think it was a good time with Neil. Sylvia Country was a good time.
Oh, yeah.
He took care of his district.
Yeah.
He was a lot smarter than Eddie.
I know, I keep forgetting.
Not once have you gotten that right.
Well, it's gonna happen to you someday. You'll see. Well, now watch, don't you want to get him playing?
I don't want to get this guy eating.
Oh, you've already got a meeting. Who are you getting? This one? Face. Is this the one who likes the pencil? I gave it to her. She didn't do anything.
You just go right to the mayor's office, knock on the door, and I can go in and talk to him. Yeah. They let me right in. I talked to him about billboards. Like he has time for billboards. You know. I love the guy. Huh? He runs from basically. They're all there. Nick Sullivan. All there. Good.
Play with the baby. My folks told me this morning they went to New York for the weekend.
It's not exact. It's close.
What do they say?
How much are you paying?
2 services for each. I'm so excited.
Come on closer.
Now wait, group. Now
So this is if I have
Jerome
good
Avenue,
dairy.
22nd and Jerome.
brunch, a daily brunch, you know.
23rd and Jerome, something like that.
It's 6 servings for 16. But it's
Oh,
similar,
sure.
it's
I'm
similar
going to see
picture.
Black and Blue.
And then
And did you
the
see
white
it?
on
Yeah.
white.
How was it?
No, I didn't see Black and Blue. That's the tap dance thing.
Look at the
Yeah, there's other things I'd rather
They
see.
say it's expensive.
Mine's not
It's
in there.
expensive, man. You know, we should see when we come, we'll see the new Jackie Mason. I hear is
I would
outrageous.
love to see the new Jackie
I hear it's
Mason.
hilarious.
I would love to see
And
the
he's
new
in such
Jackie
trouble all the time now. You hear the latest thing about his daughter, his illegitimate daughter, the woman, is writing a book.
Uh-oh.
And they're bringing out all these things about what he used to do. And, yeah. He's funny, that's all.
All right, I don't want him sitting in my
That's
case.
why
Why not?
I would not want to be famous.
Excuse me.
Curtis
You
West
know,
wants me to
stuff
help you.
in life.
It's even between you and your
What do you want, Debbie?
Who's out on the phone?
We don't know yet.
Hold on.
A photograph of the photograph. All right, do it. Go ahead.
All right, it's coming up.
There's a picture of my grandmother, grandfather, my mother, my uncle, and my three aunts. I would say that that picture was taken about 1890.
Who
There's my grandfather. He came over from Germany about 1850 or so. You're going too fast. You don't give me a chance to describe each one and tell you about them. That's my mother. She was a pretty good-looking woman. And she was the third oldest. There's my Uncle Rudolph, who was a violinist, as my brother was. And there's Aunt Fanny. She married when she was about 40 years of age. I'm older than that. She was a very wonderful woman. And that was the sweetest of them all. That was Aunt Eddie. And she had 2 sons. And
Who's the man in the middle in the front row?
in the middle is my grandfather, Hermann Jacobs. And the old lady is Jeanette, my grandmother. There is my father. He came here to Springfield, I think, in the early 1890s. And then he went south, and the Ku Klux Klan kicked him out of the town he was in. And there's Esther, my mother. And I think, I don't know, she died rather late in life, too. But, you know, I just happened to see, I just saw in her face Regina, this picture behind me. So there was family resemblance.
I'm thinking about doing some more wedding videos, but joining a firm that does this. That way they get all the business for me.
And they'll make the money, not you.
No, I'll make the money for doing the videotaping.
Well, what do you have to think about it? Just go ahead and do it. Don't think, just do, act.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm trying to think here a second. I left some certain questions. All right, well, let's go back a little bit. Your father, his name Harry W. What's the W for?
I don't know.
And your mother, I want you to talk to me as if I don't know anything, which is mostly true. Because I don't know any of the names.
Well, my father was born in Europe. We came to this country about 1890, I would say.
From Germany.
And he married my mother, who was born in New York City. And she was the daughter of some people, my grandmother and grandfather, who came from Germany. They came over about before the Revolutionary War here in this country, and he made, my grandfather made uniforms for the Union Army.
The Civil War, you mean?
The Civil War, not the Revolutionary War. And my mother and father married and came to Springfield about 1892 or 3.
Now, why did they come to Springfield?
Well, my father had a brother who had come to Springfield prior to that time, and he also had a sister who lived here. That's how my father happened to land in Springfield.
So do you remember your aunt and uncle?
I remember my uncle, and I remember my aunt very, very well.
What were their names?
Well, my uncle's name was Moses Aronson, and my aunt's name was, her Jewish name was Chile, and she was married to a man by the name of Lasky, whose name was changed to Lasker. And
But he changed it here.
She lived in Springfield. And at the time, Oh, my mother and father. My father had a little store in Thompsonville, Connecticut.
What type of store? A grocery store?
A clothing store, gents furnishing store. And we had a little home in Thompsonville where we had nothing but a wooden stove to keep the home warm. And my mother would take a brick and put it in the oven. The brick was covered with carpet. And she'd put that heated brick in the beds upstairs because there was no heat to warm up the bed before we were ready for bed.
Did you have any plumbing at all? Indoor plumbing?
There was water in the kitchen, and there was water in the toilets. There was no electricity. We used oil lamps. Of course, there was no electricity in the town except on the streets, and those lights went out at 9:30 in the evening. And then it was pitch dark. And
did you have a horse?
What?
Did you have a horse?
No, we couldn't afford a horse. We were too poor. But when my father had a barrel of potatoes in the fall and a barrel of apples and a great big can of milk, which eventually turned sour, from which my mother made pot cheese. We were all set for the winter. We did have chickens, and we grew our own vegetables, so we lived and managed.
Oh, how did your father get the store originally? Who set him up?
Well, he thought Thompsonville would be a good town to make a living in, and he simply rented a little store. He never did much. The business, there was a great big carpet mill at that time known as Biglow Hartford Carpet Company. And Saturday was the big day. And I recall being in the store. I must have been 8 or 10 years old. And when it got 7, I would get behind the counter and lie down and fall asleep until they closed the store about 10 o'clock. We go home. And then we moved to Springfield.
And what year was that?
That I must have been about 12 or 13 years old. And that must have been about 1911 or 12. I was born in 1899.
Now,
And at the time my father came to Springfield with his wife, my mother, there were probably not more than 6 or 8 families, Jewish families in Springfield.
well, why did he make the move? His business?
Well, the store was still there, and they thought it'd be better, my parents thought it would be better for their 2 children, my brother and I, to be where there were Jewish people. But there were very few Jews living there. As time went on, my job was to go down to Ferry Street. Ferry Street was where all the Jewish stores were, the butcher shop and the fish market and the bakery. And I was supposed every Friday to take a live chicken, which my father would buy somewhere around in Connecticut, and take it to the chicken, he would cut the throat of the chicken, and my job was to pluck the feathers off of the chicken, and then go to the fish market and buy fish, which was 10 cents a pound, 12 cents a pound, and buy bread. We were all set for the Sabbath. The Ferry Street, which went from Dwight Street, which at that time was called North, and later changed to Dwight Street. Ferry Street went from North Street to Main Street, and then up to Chestnut Street. And milk was 10 cents a quart, bread was 8 cents a loaf.
Did your mother work?
My mother didn't work, no. But all the shopping was done by the Jews of Springfield on Ferry Street. There were push carts, of course. There were no automobiles at that time. There were no telephones. There were no radios or television sets.
So what did you do to amuse yourself?
Well, we enjoyed ourselves very, very well and lived comfortably. Now and then my father would hire a horse and buggy on a Sunday, and we would go riding. And the point was that on Ferry Street, from North Street halfway to Main, was the Jewish section. Beyond that was the Lebanese section to Main Street. And you would see the Lebanese sitting out there on the sidewalk, smoking their water pipes, and there was always minor clashes between the Jews who had the east part of the street, of that section, and the Lebanese who had the western side of the street.
Did you ever get into a fight?
No, there was one family called the Gordonsteins. Mrs. Gordonstein had a fish market. They had 5 sons, and they were the protectors of the Jews against the Lebanese. There were no real bad clashes, but occasionally minor ones. And the Gordonsteins are still around. In fact, Aunt Ruth's family, Mrs. Becker, they were Gordonsteins. They're still around. And
Do you mind if I turn this light on?
oh, turn it off. You want it on?
Yeah.
Yes. It just turned that button around there.
Oh, that's good. Okay. This is better. So you moved to Springfield when you were 11 or 12. So your brother was a couple of years older, was he?
My brother was
anywhere?
about 3 years older, and from infancy he took the violin. That's all he ever did all his life. He played the violin and taught lessons and became one of the first directors of which is now the Springfield Symphony. He also taught at violin and was at the head of the music department of Mount Holyoke College, where he was eventually, when he retired, was honored by the college. And he spent his entire life as a violinist.
Did you ever play an instrument?
What?
Did you ever play an instrument?
I played violin and a little piano, but I guess I wasn't musically inclined enough. And eventually I went to high school, and about that time, the the First World War started. And
So First World War, 1917, so you would have been 18 years old.
I was 18 when I joined what was known as the Student Army Training Corps. And I wound up at Amherst College. And I was in uniform and was trained to go overseas. I was there about a year and would have gone within a month after it was announced, the armistice was announced. So I was very fortunate that I didn't have to go.
Now what about Melton?
Well, Milton just continued his schooling and devoted. He didn't have to go. So after that, I didn't go to college. I spent 1 year at Amherst College and felt I had to stay home to support my parents who were struggling to make a living. And I went to work for an insurance company called the Springfield Fire and Marine.
Now how old are you now?
I must have been about 21. I got $7.75 a week. Gave it to my mother, who gave me 50 cents for spending money. Things are rather different today. And I stayed at that insurance company for about a year, and then decided to go in the insurance business as an agent. And I went in with another fellow by the name of Sam Simons, but he married, he became married, and his father-in-law decided that he ought to be in business for himself. So he left me. We're now up to about 1928.
Now are you married at this point?
Huh?
Are you married?
No, I wasn't married.
Well, 1928, you must have been getting very close.
I didn't get married until January of 1929. And at that time, instead of devoting my time to the insurance business, the custom was to sit in a brokerage office, which opened about 9. Everybody sat there. Sometimes they were given sandwiches and coffee, and we watched the stock market.
You watched the ticker?
We watched the ticket. At that time, all you had to put in was 10%. So,
I don't understand what...
well, if you bought $100 worth of stock, you had to put in $10.
Okay.
If you had $100, you could buy $1,000 worth of stock. And you'd go in and sit down, and at the end of the day, you discovered on paper that you were so much richer. And I figured out that by the time I'd be 30 years old, I'd be worth $100,000. I could retire, because 100,000 in 1929 is better than $1 million, I guess, today. And I really neglected the insurance business, and it gave me up instead of I giving it up. By the end of 1930, in September the 27th of 1929, the stock market broke. And stocks went, and for example, I owned some Continental Insurance Company, one of the biggest in the country and still in existence, for $96 a share, and it went to $6 a share. Had I done business through a broker, they would have sold me out if I didn't come up with the balance. But I did business with the Springfield National Bank, and I signed a collateral note, so I was out a note, and they never sold me out. The result was that in 1932, when the market was at its very lowest, I discovered that I was in the hole many thousands of dollars.
What was the note you signed? Did you have
I
property,
signed
or-
the note for 90% of the money I borrowed. I only put in 10%.
But based on any of your holdings? Did you have
Well,
property?
I had a lot then, and it took me, I must have had a lot because I figured I'd be worth 100,000 by the time I'd be 30. Anyway, by 1932, I owed the banks many thousands of dollars, which took me until 1938 to pay up on a dead horse. When the stock got to be at its very lowest, a new president of the bank came in and they sold me out. So, at any rate,
Now, what were you doing for these 8 years to pay it back?
well, I struggled very, very hard to make a living, and my wife had children, and it was very, very tough. Things got very bad, just as they are right now. Real estate went completely to the dogs, and the house I owned, the first mortgagee foreclosed, and I moved to Lenox Street, paying about either $17 or $27 a month rent, which I was unable to pay.
Now, how big a place were you getting for that?
Well, it was. I had about 3 children at that time, and I had difficulty paying the rent. However, about that time, Monsanto Chemical Company bought a company in Indian Orchard. And I met one of the salesmen of the company, whose name was Stanley King. And he said to me, you think you could raise $300? And if you could, we would set you up in the plastics business. Monsanto started making acetate, clear acetate. Somehow, I guess, I don't know how I got the 300, but I did. And with that, I was in the plastics business, and I made transparent boxes that they put orchids in. And from that I started making many different items in plastics, and eventually started to make plastic boots. And plastic boots became very prominent. Women would wear them over their stockings. Plastic rubbers, all types of plastic footwear. And as time went on, real estate was still bad, and I was able to buy a home in Springfield on Bellevue Avenue, for which I paid $4,000. An enormous home, actually a mansion. And we moved to that home. Things got a little better for us. And
You had 5 kids by now.
now I had 5 children. Yes, there were 5 children. And there was a company in Rock Island, Illinois, that was one of the large privately owned rubber companies known as Service Rubber Company. And their business was going downhill because plastic footwear became very prominent. So they came to me and they bought me out. And I ran the plastics business for them, and became an officer of Service Rubber Company, and also a director of Service Rubber Company. And prior to that time, a company in Boston was hired by Puerto Rico to develop Puerto Rico by bringing in American manufacturers. And I wound up leasing a building from Puerto Rican government and 12,000 square feet with an option to buy. I was doing very well after the Second World War. I'm a little ahead of myself. As I was struggling to make a living out of the making and selling of clear, transparent boxes that they put flowers in, I met a man by the name of Russell Chapin, whose great-great-great-great-grandfather was the founder of Springfield. And he came to me and he said, I would like to go in business with you. I'll put in whatever money you need. And we'll be equal partners. We'll each draw $50 a week.
Which was a lot.
Well, we were struggling as I was. I had everything to gain and nothing to lose, so he became my partner. He was the greatest man I ever met in my life. In the entire time that he was with me, he never once looked at a checkbook or asked me how I was doing. And when he had given me for the business many thousands of dollars, and I can't remember at the moment whether he had turned over something like 40-odd thousand or 80,000, I don't remember. But I went to him and I said, Russell, I cannot take any more of your money. It's just like water through a sieve. And he looked at me and he said the following. I quote him. It was quite a lark while it lasted.
Lark, L-A-R-K.
L-A-R-K. A man who took a stranger in. The stranger lost all his money. And he said, well, it was quite a lark while it lasted. Then the Second World War came on, and I received a lot of contracts from the New Jersey, in New Jersey, the government in New Jersey. I don't remember what office it was. And we started to make a lot of money. And we did very, very well.
Now, he's still your partner at this point.
What?
He's still your partner at this point.
He's still my partner. And his wife, Rosamond, felt she was a pretty good singer. And she became acquainted with a man who ran a dance, had a dance pavilion known as Jacob's Pillow. His name was Ted Shawn. And she sold him the idea of introducing operatic singing along with the ballet dancing. And one day during the Second World War, he came into my office, his face flushed, and he said, well, he said, Arnold, you and I are going to be patrons of the dance, just like Otto Kahn was patron of the opera. I says, that's fine. How about it? Well, he says, Rosamond has made an arrangement to bring in a lot of people from New York and singers, and they're going to sing along with the dancing, and we're going to be directors of Jacob's Pillow. I said, that's fine. Well, there must be something to it. Well, we're each supposed to put in $10,000. Well, I said, why don't you let me sleep on it? The next morning, I said, gee, I don't think I'd want to. But he did. And he bought a place called New Boston, not far from Lee and Lenox. And he brought all these reprobates from New York. His wife had rented, at that time, of course, we were doing very well and making a lot of money. And his wife had rented the first floor of an entire building that Nelson Rockefeller had lived in and moved out. And Friday nights, I would occasionally go down to visit them where she held a seance. And there you would see every reprobate who thought he or she could sing there, some on the floor, shaking their heads with their feet between their legs crossed and reading poetry, and another dancing, and the weirdest people I ever met in my life. And all those people came from New York to New Boston. And he fed them and dined them and wined them. And of course, it didn't last long before Rosamond and Ted Shawn entered into a disagreement, and it came to an end. Shortly after that, Russell had come to me and he says, Arnold, he says, I've never contributed one thing to this business. And I've lost all my money. And I wish you'd buy me out. And I said, no, I'll never buy you out because I know that you will go through that money.
So he didn't have any of
He never did
invested all your money in
it.
you.
He was a brilliant fellow. He was graduated from Harvard. He went to Eton in London, England. He came back, went to Columbia, became a lawyer, but he never practiced. It was an avocation with him. He was a playboy. His father was a playboy, Henry Chapin. During the Revolutionary War, his great-great-great-grandparents started a paper mill in Russell, Massachusetts. And that's where the family became millionaires. When it got down to the time of his father, he was already a playboy. So Russell never worked a day in his life, never. Anyway, in the course of time, he prevailed upon me to sell him out. He got back all his money, and he moved to Cape Cod. He called me one day and he said, come down and see me. This was on a weekday, a Sunday, and I said, I can't come today. And when he hung up the phone, he had a heart attack and died.
How old was he? How old was he?
I would say he must have been in his late 60s, or very early 70s.
But he was about your age, though.
He was a year older than I. His father gave him a wedding present, and he went to England with his bride, and they stayed there at the home of the descendants of Richard Wagner. You know who he is? A composer. He named his two children, two girls, Diana and Isolde, after the Wagner opera. I forget the name, something and Isolde. I don't know, an opera. And the older girl married a little Jewish fellow by the name of Feinberg, and they went to Pakistan, and anyway, they had two children at that point. Isolde had two children, and they named they both became Catholics. The Jew became a Catholic, and Isolde became a Catholic, and the children were christened as Catholics. Anyway, they came back, and the Jewish fellow died, and Isolde, to my latest knowledge, was teaching Chinese in Washington. The younger daughter, Diana, married Roderick McLeish. McLeish was a commentator for WBZ in those days. That was before they had television. And he met Stalin and all the leading people of London at the time, of Europe. He fell in love with his secretary and divorced his wife, Diana. And he now lives in New York. I think he writes and also does some work on television. He was the nephew of Archibald McLeish. I went to their wedding in in Cummingford, is it, near Pittsfield?
Cummington, yeah, I know. What you mean.
And to my latest knowledge, Diana was working in a delicatessen store in Washington. Anyway,
Let's backtrack a little bit. I want to hear how and where you met Nana and the circumstances surrounding your dating.
oh, well,
This must have been the late, about 1929, I guess. 28.
I got married when I was 29 years old, I think. Yeah, about 29. In those days, the boys and girls would get together. They'd have parties, and they'd play cards, and I think, as I remember, they'd spin the bottle. That was about the height of their indulgence in those days, and I met your grandmother, who was one of the girls, and her name was Brown, Rita Brown. And we went around for a few years, and finally we got married. That's all
Well,
it
so
was.
then you met her before 1929.
Yes, oh yes. I'd met her maybe 3 years before. I don't know, 3 years before.
But did you date her steady for 3 years, or did you see her?
Well, we didn't know about dating. I don't know. We certainly didn't act the way they do today. And anyway, we married, and it was quite a struggle. We were up and down, had many. I'd be up the top of the ladder. The next time I'd be broke, and we had a very happy life. And of course, you know, she passed away when she was 83. But getting back to my business, I started making a lot of money for the Service Rubber Company. And the Service Rubber Company, who made nothing but sneaks and rubber goods, firemen's boots, farmers' boots, all kinds of heavy rubber footwear, was doing very badly. So being on the board of directors, it being a closed corporation, I didn't have any stock in the company and didn't want any. Because if anybody wanted stock in a closed corporation, you had to take what they offered. Nobody else would buy it. Eventually, the directors of Service Rubber decided to sell. And at that time, when the decision was made to sell the business, I went to the head of the company and I said, I feel you ought to sell, let me have some of the Service Rubber stock. And I bought. They said, we'll let you have $100,000 worth of stock at 10,000 shares at $10 a share. But since I only had $5,000, I gave them the 5, and I gave them a note at a very nominal rate of interest, with the understanding that when they found a customer, I would have to pay up the 95. Hello. Yeah. Well, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm getting interviewed. Yeah. Here he is.
Well, I'm just going to move this up a little bit. That's better. Okay, so now we're up to the stock.
I'm really I'm really ahead of myself. The fact is that getting back to Puerto Rico, I let my accountant manage the place in Puerto Rico. One year I had made so much money during the Second World War. We made huge tarpaulins that would cover a football field, and the government would put its artillery and heavy equipment in the field, and we covered all that equipment with these one-piece covers which we sealed together from small pieces. And there were little pieces left over about 8 inches wide. And I started making, they cost us nothing. I started making tobacco pouches out of it. And they cost nothing, and they sold for $1. And we made so much money that at the end of the year, I gave my accountant $10,000. He had formed a separate corporation known as a sales corporation. And he said to me, I don't want the $10,000. I'd rather buy stock in your Puerto Rico corporation, which I had, as I said previously, I had opened up a plant there. And he came to me after the business was there for about a year, and he said, you're broke. He says, I will keep Puerto Rico, which owed nothing, and you can have National Transparent Plastics Company, which owed all the money. Well, I went to Mr. Russell Neft, who was the president of the Third National Bank, and I explained my situation. He said he knew all about Wilson. If I would, and I owed a lot of money, if I could get rid of Wilson, I owed a lot of money to the Third National Bank. I think it was something like 40-odd thousand. That he would back me. He knew all about the devious ways that Wilson used. So in the course of time, I got rid of Wilson. And it took me another 5, 6 years to pay off the bank. Now, when the board of directors decided to sell, and they had a customer known as Chromalloy of St. Louis, it was time for me to pay up the $95,000 that I owed a Service Rubber in order to exchange the Service Rubber stock for Chromalloy stock. I went to Mr. Neff and I said, would you loan me $95,000 and I will give you the Chromalloy stock as security, which at that time was worth $170,000. When he advised me that he couldn't use that stock because it was conditioned upon the owner of it holding it for 5 years. So it was worthless to a bank. But in a few days, I received a letter from the bank that they would loan me $95,000. And they did it because I had paid up the other loan some years prior in full. And they gave me the 95 without any security. I wasn't worth it. And I proceeded to exchange it for the note. I received the stock, and I had this Chromalloy stock in my hand.
Now worth $170,000.
Yeah.
You just made $70,000.
I made 95 from 170 was $85,000. 75,000. Anyway, as time went on, one of the conditions of the terms of the sale of the stock of service rubber to Chromalloy was that if the stock went down below a certain figure within a year after we received Chromalloy stock, they would have to give us 50% more stock. The stock did go down, and now I wound up with 15,000 shares of stock, but it wasn't worth so much money. However, I got to know the chairman of the board. Joe Friedman was his name, and he was a wonderful man. And I went to him one day at his office in New York, and I said, we became great friends, he and I. And I asked him, I said, I really needed money, and although I knew I couldn't sell this stock for 4 more years, it meant so little to them, would he let me sell it? He said, sure, go ahead and sell it. So I sold it.
15,000 shares of Chromalloy.
15,000 shares of Chromalloy, which actually cost me $100,000, and I don't know how much I made. It was a considerable amount of money. And of course, Chromalloy went completely broke.
Very lucky.
And they were on the New York Stock Exchange. The stock went down to nothing. Nothing.
Now, what year is this? It went down to nothing. Talking in the 50s or 60s?
It must have been in the middle 60s, yeah. Yeah, maybe close to 70. There was one incident there were 2 incidents that I thought you'd like to hear of. One was at the point where we were Chapin and I were making so much money. I had a salesman, Mr. Bradford, who incidentally, his great ancestor was the first governor, Bradford his name was, of Massachusetts. He was no good. He knew me up until 5 o'clock. After that, he didn't know me. But the point is that he and his wife and I went to Nassau. And I had leased a home in Nassau from Lady Nancy, was that her name? She was quite a well-known figure. I think she killed her husband many years back. And we decided that we thought it would be nice if Russell Chapin would come over for the weekend. So I called him up, and he came in. We met him at the airport in Nassau, and we decided to go to a nightclub Saturday night. But you had to have a tuxedo. So we found a tuxedo for him, and when he went to put it on, it was big enough for four Russell Chapins, not one. I had hired 3 people, which cost $30 for the entire month. The 3 people. One was a cook, and one was a man Friday to do our errands and things, and one was a woman to keep the house clean. The whole 3 of them cost $30 a month, for the whole month we were there. And off, when he went to put on the pants, they were big enough, so big that the man, there's no suspenders, and there's no belt, there's no on tuxedo trousers. You're supposed to wear suspenders. So our man Friday, the man who worked for, took a piece of clothes rope and tied it around him, and off we go to the nightclub. And we're sitting there, and right near us, I recall, was a Jewish fellow who married, what was his name? He died. He wrote all those wonderful songs, White Christmas and
Irving Berlin.
Irving Berlin was sitting next with his wife and people next to it. And we're sitting there, and the music is playing, people are dancing, and Chapin happens to see dancing on the floor his boyhood friends, Harold Wesson of Smith & Wesson, and Douglas Wallace, who owned a big department store, Forbes and Wallace. So he gets up and breaks into the Wessons who were dancing, hello, hello, and he starts to dance with Mrs. Wesson, and lo and behold, the rope broke, and here he is on the dance floor with the music playing and everybody dancing, and his pants fall down. I shall never forget that as long as I live. He had on blue shorts, and all he did was pick him up, tie the rope around him, bow as though nothing happened, and continued dancing. And the second thing that happened was, that I never will forget, was Cromeloy owned a hotel. That particular hotel, after they sold it, had a fire in it in Puerto Rico, and several people were killed. You remember that incident? And I was invited by Cromeloy to take my wife and spend a week there at the hotel. So we went, your grandma and myself, and while sitting there every day, I didn't go in the water much, we'd just sit there in our bathing suits and watch the people. Some distance away, there were 4 men playing cards. That would go on every day. One day, one of the men came over and said, we're short a hand, would you like to play? And your grandmother says, go ahead, go play with them. So I went over there. And they were playing gin rummy, which I didn't know much about, very little, with all its many ramifications. And at the end of the first game, they tell me I'm out $200. And I said to him, well, I can't play these stakes. I don't know your game. I don't know how you even figure it. Well, we cut it in half. I said, no, I cut it in half and then cut it in half. At the end of the game, they told me I'd lost $443. And I realized that I was in with a bunch of card sharks. So I said, well, I'm in my trunk, so I'll meet you at the bar. I go to my safe deposit box and I'll get the money. And I came back to my wife and she says, how'd you make out? I said, I lost $44.30. And Grandma started to yell and scream, how could you possibly lose $44, so much money? Well, anyway, I was scared of my life, and I paid them off, $443. And later, the following week, we left, and I was told that they were arrested. Those are two prominent things, funny things that I'll always remember until I...
You really felt threatened by them?
Huh?
You really felt threatened?
Well, I was very much threatened. I was scared to death. I didn't want it to be known I lost $443 either. I didn't want Cromerloy to know I even did it. But they were arrested the following week. Anyway, as time went on, I moved over here, and children grew up. And finally, I retired, I think, when I was 75. I had very, very many vicissitudes in life. I was up and down, and I never attributed what little I now have to my brains. I think it was more luck than anything else. And now, of course, you know, I have my 5 children has 13 children. And I also have 4 great-grandchildren. Things are moving along. But I'm on my way. In another 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I'll be in Arizona where I'll feel much better. And that is the story of my life.
You're leaving in 3 weeks.
5 weeks. 5 weeks I shall be leaving.
Thank you. Can we backtrack a little bit, fill in a couple gaps?
What's that?
Can we fill in a couple of gaps? I mean, I wanted to hear maybe a little bit about when you had all 5 children living at home, before I guess Uncle Herbie went off to wherever, college or moved out. What was it like to have all 5 kids in the house? And that was
well, I never did have all 5 children. Yeah, I must have had them at one time. But your Aunt Regina came to me when she was in high school. Or rather, she was going around with a boy also in her class, a Jewish boy, and as often as he came over to the house, I kicked him out. And in their last year of high school, we received a telegram from North Carolina saying that they had gone there and gotten married. There wasn't much we could do about it. They were married. And, I think they were already out of high school, and he was at a school in Boston, and she was up at Massachusetts Agricultural College at that time. I think it was about $400 a year, the tuition. They moved to Amherst, and I recall once he had a cold, and his father paid $5 for the doctor, and she had a cold, and I paid $5 for her doctor. But anyway, they had a baby, and they both graduated, and they moved to Washington.
Oh, wait, you're talking about Penny.
Penny.
You said Regina before.
No, Penny. I'm talking about Penny. That's Penny. And of course, that marriage was unsuccessful, and she called me one day and said, I can't take it, and I made a big mistake, one of the biggest of my life. I said, well, take your 2 children, there were 2 children, and come home. So she did that, and I got her a little apartment on Long Hill Street, and she called me one day, and she was in tears and shrieking and said, somebody kidnapped her 2 children who were now, one was in nursery school and the other in kindergarten. It so happened that it was her husband who came here to Springfield, took the kids out of school and took them back to Washington. And then there ensued a very long period wherein she attempted to get the children back, which we eventually did get for her. And they were divorced, and of course, you know, she married again. And Regina, then I think Herbert, during was it the Second World War, that he went off, went to California, but he didn't stay in the Army very long. Dick, during the Korean War, he wound up in Alaska. And somehow or another, they've all managed and going along through life. I think that's about all I can tell you.
That's a good start.
Huh?
That's a good start.
Well, there were many, many things in my life that were interesting. It would take a week to tell you all about them, but I passed a lot of them off.
Well, next time I'll get more.
We can do more next time.
Any closing remarks you want to make?
No, I just hope everybody does well in life and has good health, which is the primary objective eventually of everybody. And we've had a very lucky and very fortunate family up to this moment. With all these children and grandchildren, there hasn't been any loss of life in all these years. The closest one, I guess, to it is myself, but I'm still carrying on. So we have been very fortunate in that, on that score, and I'm very happy to say that as a family, although only natural there are some differences among some of us, but we're a rather closely knit family, and probably more so than most families. And when the chips are down, I think they'll take care, one will take care, the more fortunate will take care of those less fortunate. And I'm very happy for that reason. And with that, I think I'm going to have some cream of wheat and some peanut butter sandwich with banana in between.
On wheat bread.
Huh?
On wheat bread.
On wheat bread, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to take this off.
Well, your father wants you there? Wants you home?
No, he just wanted me to call him when everything was done. Turn this.
Tell him? Is he waiting for you?
No, you can call him if you like. How do I get this off?
When she died, because she died on a Saturday. They couldn't bury her till Sunday.
Your mother?
She died on a Saturday
What's the
night.
matter? Out of shape.
Saturday night she died.
You don't eat because you don't do back exercises. You have a weak back and you don't do anything
And you're
to
doing
strengthen
all
it.
that bending.
He
You should
doesn't
do
do
sit-ups.
anything to
You do
straight-
sit-ups.
to strengthen his
Bent
back.
knee sit-ups will strengthen your back. Robert, what strengthens lower back? Lower back?
Stomach.
Upper back? Upper back. Nothing. Lower back abdominal sit-ups.
Yeah,
upper
with your
back
knees bent.
really is not,
too much to worry about. It's the lower back.
Lower back is
yeah.
worse.
But he should do sit-ups with his knees bent.
Right.
Yeah.
Upper back,
yeah.
there's no muscle there.
What the hell is your father's Jewish name? I know.
We were trying to think of what our weaknesses are now and think about what we're going to be like when we're older.
I'm better physically now than I ever was in my life.
That is
Good.
Mr. and Mrs. Oh, don't shake the table.
Verona.
Right,
Okay.
that's him.
First names?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm just so we can talk over this because these are the pictures I'm going to insert over
Okay.
everything that you were
Okay.
talking
Oh,
about.
okay. So I didn't have to do
But you
that.
did want to
Dishel,
Italian.
Dishel and Yussel. Dishel, what a ridiculous Dishel. Dishel. I used to, when people would ask me what my Jewish name is, I used to say Dishel. Class. Dishel.
Listen, for many, many years, I wouldn't tell anybody my middle name.
Oh,
And
it's a beautiful
I know.
name.
It took a long time
What's
because I
your
thought it was a
name?
boy's
Oh, it's
name.
beautiful. Sydney.
Well, the way it's spelled too.
How did you spell it?
S-Y-D-N-E. That's the way
That's
it's
why
spelled.
on your birth.
My mother was ahead of her time, but I
Yeah.
I wasn't. I wouldn't. I said
I
you'll
love
never
them.
guess it. I would give people the first letter, and they never
I
would guess.
love the name Kay too.
Yeah, that was unusual too,
Beautiful name.
with an E on the end.
Yeah.
But the middle name. That's how I got Casey, though, didn't I?
I'm the one that did that.
Yeah, you did that.
Absolutely. From K Sydney to Casey, and you used to spell it C-A-S-E-Y. In my
Yeah.
mind, I never pictured it that way.
Do you know where this house is?
K-A-Y-S-I-E.
Oh, well, that.
That's 49 Calhoun Street,
In Springfield, Massachusetts.
Springfield, Mass. 01107.
Someone's just moved the table.
I did it. I did it. Oh, let me, you know what I should do? I should get out of here. You don't need me in here, do you?
No.
Let me get out so I don't do that.
And you were 51, Calhoun?
Georgie was 51. This was 49.
C-A-Y-S-I-E?
Yeah, that's the way well, and then when I ever saw it, C-A-S-E-Y, I had never pictured it that way. I named, what's her name too? Karen Mackler.
Okay.
You did?
Yeah. She was born, they wanted to name her after Grandpa, Chaim Mayer. Chaim Mayer?
Yeah.
I'm Chaim Mayer.
You are too?
Yeah.
Danny's named after Grandpa?
He was supposed to be after my father's father.
Oh, that's who it is.
My mother's father, and right at the bris, when my father heard the name, he said no. For some reason, there was a last-minute change, and he's
Chaim Mayer.
Is that
So
why the
that's,
way
what
he
were
is
you?
the way he is?
What were we talking about just before?
Karen.
Oh, Karen. When she was born, Karen Maxine. Chaim Mayer. Chaim Mayer.
Oh. And I'm Chaya, Chaya Sora.
My son Michael's is after Mayer. Mayor David. Instead of Chaim Mayer, I just named Mayor David after his grandfather. My grandfather and his Robert's grandfather.
David. See Michael
What's
David?
your full name? Boss. It's
Daughter of
Sora,
who? What's your
daughter-
father's middle?
What's my? We can't think of my father's.
His
Jewish
name
name.
is...
Uh-oh, the rabbi's not gonna like that.
Wait a minute.
Well, we've got, I think
We gotta
Irving
find
told
it.
us.
But
Irving and
yeah,
Harold
it isn't
must have.
Ichel. It was,
Somebody else in there just seems to.
no, it was,
Well, it must be on Lynn's particularly.
what's your name might know it.
Well, no.
Would be on
Elliot
the
and my names would be on Lynn's.
Right, but your
How about your
name,
Katuba?
your full name
Right.
is Chai Sora Boss.
Daughter, you mean daughter Rose?
Yes.
So
Rivka.
be on in your father's grave. No, but that's where you can get his
I have a
name.
picture. I took. Remember you and I went to the cemetery?
Yeah.
I took a picture.
You could find it on your father's grave.
Well, Irving and Harold, I think, told us
But,
something.
but it isn't Ichel.
No.
Walter would know.
He would.
Yeah, I bet he would know.
You can start cooking. Go ahead. We're
I don't-
leaving.
I'm not. I don't know what I'm cooking. I got leftover turkey.
Yeah.
I gotta put this mess away.
Gotta hurry.
No, he doesn't have to.
Well, there's really not that many pictures. I'm just
So what are you doing now?
I'm videotaping every picture,
And why
but I
does it
have to
take-
hold the camera on long enough
So,
to get every shot.
This looks like the exact same picture.
No.
That's like your big picture
Yes, that's what I was
Is that the
talking
exact
about.
same one I
there.
just
It's the
shot?
big picture, yep.
Exactly.
So you don't have to do that. And I gotta then figure out where those go. There we go.
Now, she's in the Jewish nursing home now.
Yep.
Okay.
You want to say who that is, or do you know?
Yeah, you can just say out loud.
Daddy,
Oh,
so-
wait, that's, what's his name? Got Morris Mackler, Morris and Lil Mackler and Howard and
Howard's,
Hussey.
Howard's which
Don't
one?
touch the table.
Howard and Hussey Mackler, the kids.
And what's Hussey's real name?
Harold. I'm sure.
That's before Shishi was
That's
born.
before Sydney was born. Shishi.
You know, I'll never forget what Uncle Morris was ill, and the one from California came
Hussey.
in, and I was in Marshall's on Boston Road, and Shishi. You know, it sounds
No,
funny.
Hussey.
Yeah, but the other one, Sydney. What was his name? Shishi.
Shishi, he was cute.
He was adorable, and I
Yes.
saw him in Marshall, and I said, "How's Shishi?" And you know, they didn't even know who I was. I mean,
Yeah.
I remembered them, and they looked at me, and I
Yeah.
had to tell them who I
Yeah,
was.
Shishi was a lot
He
of
was
fun.
cute.
Yeah, good looking kid.
And Dick used to see him once in a while because
Yeah.
they bumped
Yeah,
into each other in
campers,
Boston, and he had a
whatever.
camp in the outskirts of Boston. One of them's a mailman.
Hussey in California.
Do you know the name of the camp?
No, my brother did. I don't know if it's. I think they sold. I think it's a. I don't think it's a camp anymore.
Okay, that's.
He was a teacher.
That's,
Shush,
yeah,
wasn't
that's Harry and Mary Mackler. And their kids,
he? From left to right.
Harold, Leslie, and the twins Charlie and Larry. See, my brother Jimmy couldn't give you this information.
No? Why
he
not?
doesn't, because he doesn't remember, blanks out on everything, he doesn't remember
Really?
anybody. Do you buy Geraldine a gift or give her money?
Money.
20?
No.
Do you give her that much?
Who's Geraldine?
No?
My hairdresser. I don't think I gave her that last year. I have an appointment with her Friday.
Oh, corduroy. Tell them, like last socks? They're gonna throw those out now?
Like mine?
Yeah, those are cute. You know, I was looking for knee
Those
socks,
are
I can't get them anywhere. I
like
can't
these.
find knee socks anywhere.
Did you look in Marshall's?
Yeah, nothing, not knee socks.
You mean sheer ones or cotton knit?
You know, knee socks that I like to wear in the winter when I go in my walks and stuff.
What's
These aren't
this?
sheer.
No.
Yeah, you can't find knee socks. Are those knee socks? You can get them in
they don't.
pennies, but they were like,
They don't go up to here because
Oh.
I couldn't. I wanted this color,
yeah.
and I went to the men's department. So
Yeah.
they're really men's.
Really?
Yeah, but they're not high enough.
Yeah.
No, they kind of.
That's all right. You can get men's in Marshalls.
They have beautiful men's socks, designer men's socks.
Yeah,
in
they're
Marshall's.
expensive. I don't spend that kind of money.
If they're expensive there, how much do you think they are in a
I know
store?
it. I know. I'm looking for a bargain. What can I tell you?
Everything at Blake's is half price.
I know, but they have so little.
Ugh.
More. They have nothing.
You know, we were out to dinner one night. We happened to be sitting. We went out with the Lofmans, and I shouldn't have said anything, but I did say. I said, you know, I go in when we were talking about the coupons,
Ooh,
and I said I go in for the Liz Cream, but I never can find anything. She said we didn't. What'd she say? We just couldn't get, or it sold out so quickly.
It does.
But
That's
they
the
don't.
first thing.
They don't.
They
get
don't carry that much.
anyway.
No, they don't.
But otherwise, I never go in there. I haven't been.
I
And
never even
somebody
went in
said
with
they
the
saw
coupons.
something in there, even with the coupon.
It was so expensive.
It was like the same price somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, so they kind of marked it up and then with
No,
the
they don't
coupon.
mark up that Liz
Well, this
Claiborne
particular,
thing.
not Liz Claiborne.
Oh,
it's
other
kind
things
of
maybe?
fair trade. Some baby item. Do you know that the Frankels are grandparents?
Oh, what's your name?
Nancy had a boy,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Jesse. Jesse Nathan.
I wonder if they're gonna be at Crestview. No one's gonna be there. Most of the older people are in Florida. Sure. Good people.
How long do the
Thrones?
Thrones go away for? Do they go for a while?
Yeah, usually they're not even here during the holidays.
I mean, they go for a month?
Oh, I don't know, no, not that long. But they're not usually here. This is unusual for them to be.
Yeah.
And they asked us what we're doing. We told them we're going to the club.
Does he
Would they
still
like
work?
to join us? Sure. Would they like to join us?
Do you want to say who those
And
are?
she said, yeah, she didn't want to. She said, we thought we'd, just
No,
go
I'll know
to
who
dinner.
they are.
And I said, no, Robert doesn't want to do that for us.
Where do you see them? I can't see them.
Sydney sees
The
them
health
all the
club?
time at the, running and lunch. So I said, no, New Year's Robert doesn't want to just go out to dinner and sit around. It's a party. So then she turned around and said, join us there. And I said, only under the condition that we pay our own way. I don't want to. So that's what we did.
You want her to tell you who they are?
No, I got that.
That's the whole Mackler family. Fanny and
The
Max.
Homishbacher?
Homishbacher, right. That's a gorgeous picture.
Do you know that Charlotte's nephew, Robert Levine, the
Yeah.
rabbi,
Yeah.
is the rabbi, and her aunt works in the office there.
Oh, yeah? Where did he get promoted to?
Big.
New York? In New York, the
big.
big one in New York.
One of
yeah.
the big ones.
Yeah.
And Irma Goldsmith's son is engaged.
Yeah, I saw that in the paper.
What paper?
In
Oh,
the
the Bethel, maybe?
Bethel, I think, yeah.
Still got it?
No, I threw it away.
To my friend Ann's daughter.
Say
And
that
Ben,
again?
he's engaged to
Who?
Marcus.
Oh, from Holyoke?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You
she
know
went-
Ann?
Sure, I met her. I met her once through the, the Wernick's maybe? Was she
Yeah.
friendly with him?
Yeah.
Oh, she was an attractive girl. Yeah. Were they still in
She
Holyoke?
was at the wedding.
At your wedding?
Mm-hmm. She's gained weight over
I
the
didn't
years.
say it.
Yeah,
I would have
she's
loved to
gained
say
weight.
hello.
Really?
Yeah.
She's getting married June 9th. Her daughter.
It's
After
marrying,
them.
what'd you say? He's marrying?
John Goldsmith.
Oh, yeah? That's nice. How old's her daughter? She's no kid, is she?
She's about
It's
20.
morning after, isn't it? Sure.
She's in her,
I think
You want
actually
anybody
is
tea or coffee?
kind of
Anybody?
interesting.
Want a cup of tea while you're...
she's about 27.
I mean, these are going to be my children's great.
Yeah, I know.
Great.
You know, my kids would say, big deal.
I like that
Do
stuff.
you?
I want
Good, I
I'm
do
going to
too.
do my family next.
Oh, you think so, do you?
Yeah.
You got
Now that
it.
I know how to use the camera, right?
Lights right
That's
on.
the easy part.
Well, you see, editing this stuff is something that I won't be able to do for a long time. To do it correctly, because you gotta have really special.
It's not cold in here? Why do I feel chilly?
It's not as warm as it was when you said it's anybody too warm.
Well, it must be, he just dropped and it'll kick up again.
I see that Shirley's father died.
Yeah.
And
Said
he was
there
in a
isn't
homo?
Santa Claus. And that means-
Oh, you're terrible.
I hated having him there. It's such a sloppy, messy.
And he was,
Where
where
he
was,
was at home. She, the wife said us in the nursing home. He's been
oh,
living there.
you mean he was, and he's the one that died?
Yep.
He was living all alone?
Yep. And Shirley had nothing to do with him anymore.
She really, finally?
Oh yeah, broke away from the whole garbage.
Wow. So who was taking care of him?
The brother would come in once in a while.
Once in a while?
Yeah, and he left the house, I think, to the brother. Poor Shirley, all that. She was crazy to do what she did for them.
But he had more than one son. He just
Yeah,
left it to one.
one of them, I think, only one son. Well, the mother too.
He was a tailor. Did you know him?
Yeah,
when
sure,
he
but
was-
I didn't know. No,
No.
he was.
So the house is on the market?
Not yet. Probably will be, but I mean, who cares?
You didn't like him?
His place was. It's a pig pen there.
The yard?
Oh, the yard is
How
something
about the
different.
inside? Was it-
I haven't gone in years. I have no idea.
And she stopped talking to him? Was she?
She doesn't even go over there. He used to call her at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, wake her up, hang up, or else scream and yell at her. He was always mad about something.
These things I'm gonna keep out.
Whatever.
And she-
I mean, I'm not gonna put them back in the piles because they're.
Ready to fall apart.
Yeah. Time I touch them, they.
Those you should frame. You really should.
But then who cares about it? No one cares.
Believe
I'll be
me,
dead.
someday your children.
They won't.
I mean
Knowing my
your
kids-
grandchildren.
Knowing my kids.
Well, but
They
they
don't
change. Your
care.
value. You think he would have cared 10 years ago, do you know?
No.
See? So it's a good night to go to the movies tonight, too. It shouldn't be too busy.
I'm not going. I don't even like going to the movies. I just went because.
That's why Michael wanted to go.
Yeah, that's their tradition. I usually stay home. They used
You're
to go.
kidding.
Yeah, I can't
You
sit
don't like the
through
movies?
No.
You just sat through that.
Yeah, but I get very nudgy. I'm
Not
not
going
a
to the Bay
movie
anymore?
goer. No, very rarely. Very rarely go to the movies anymore. And I used to go 3 times a week when I was a kid. Saw every movie they ever made.
The
Every
Jefferson
movie
Theater.
they ever
Oh,
made
I
I
love
saw.
movies.
But now I don't, that bores me. Really does.
Really?
Yeah, I think so few are any good.
Well, that may be true, but I still go.
No, I don't. I don't go.
There's some great foreign films.
My mother has these same glasses in brown.
Really? I've seen them in blue and green, but never brown. Had them for so long. That's my second set. I used to have the color green and more this color, olivey. I gave them, who did I give them to? Shelly, I think. They were this color green, the olive. And I like that green better. Junk. Everything's junk. Who cares? And is that the way you feel now? Who cares?
Well, I
God,
don't want to find it. I mean,
I don't
like
want
at the
anything.
Cape, Ellie says, "Don't you need a centerpiece for that table?" I said, "No."
No, the less you have, the
Oh,
less you have
yes.
to clean.
Who wants that?
She's young, she's starting, but after a
Yeah.
while,
Oh
God,
yeah.
I don't want that stuff. I don't want anything. I don't want anything. Oh, that's a nice picture of Chizinski's, yeah. Geez, we didn't talk about that though. He's taking that picture, we never talked about that, did we? Harry and Anna and their 2 kids?
We always said George is going to become a father again. He's 61.
Oh yeah, I didn't, you said it, I didn't say it.
That wasn't on the camera then.
No.
And Marta, Walter's wife, met him
Yeah,
on
but
the
that wasn't
train.
on
Were you with him on the train when Marta met him?
No?
Her daughter lives outside of Washington or Maryland.
Oh,
She
no.
goes down once
Yeah,
a
what's the
month.
matter? Did you put it out of sequence?
out of order?
No, it's just this page.
Don't worry about it. I'll fix it for you. I hope you're not worried because of me. I don't care. Nothing is sacred anymore. Nothing is sacred. I don't care. You had your ring done over, is that it?
Yeah. Somebody thought it was a man's.
Yeah, I was
well,
gonna say, it looks like a man's ring now. Is that what you wanted?
Well, I wanted something wide. See, I didn't want
Yeah.
anything narrow. So
What happened to your nails? You don't have them
Oh,
anymore? Look at
I
mine.
took
How
off the
terrible.
polish. They're
Isn't that
awful.
terrible?
Yeah. Well, I
They're
wish
breaking.
mine looked that good.
Are you kidding? They're all...
What is this? Arthritis?
Sure. Nice, huh?
Does it hurt?
No, it's out of the acute stage. When it's in the acute stage, it hurts.
Now
Oh,
it's
yeah.
numb or what?
Well, you just don't feel it that much. But I can't type. I can't hit the A and the Z anymore. I can't.
Really?
I cannot hit it properly. Do you type? Do you know anything about
I
I
do.
guess, believe it or not, I'm just learning.
learning? I cannot. When I'm typing, I can't hit the A and the
Yeah.
Z. Can't do it.
So what do? You use this finger?
I try to, I have to stop and
Yeah.
really concentrate. I can't do it like that anymore. I can't do
Well,
it.
how often do you type?
I type for Robert a few things
You do?
connected with the Jewish nursing home. Yeah, I take all the work from the Jewish nursing home. Is that good? That's just marks. That's not gonna. That'll come off, won't it?
What
Those
mark?
marks.
What marks?
That's that. That's from your
He doesn't
shoes.
even know. He didn't even
Oh,
know.
for my shoes, I don't know.
That's all right.
I
As
thought
long
it
as
was
it'll
from
come
the
off.
from the camera.
No,
or something.
as long as it comes. I'm not, and it's not getting washed this week because I'm working Thursday and Friday for Robert.
Now, who is this group up here on the upper left?
Okay, left is my Rose.
Wait, don't put
Oh,
your finger in.
Rose Rome and Joseph Rome and Lena Mackler, who is Rose's sister, and the baby is Rose's son Sam.
Rose's son, Sam.
My brother.
Ah,
If you ever don't want these, I'll give them to.
No, those I keep in because Anna's in them. Yeah.
Well, you got a lot of pictures.
No,
of
no,
them.
no.
that's your mother, that's your aunt.
Annie, that
Yep.
thousands of pictures. Dozens and dozens.
Who else do you want to know?
So,
Yeah, that's
brother,
your-
sister, sister.
Right.
and sister. There's 4 right there. 4 of the 6.
This kind of looks like John, maybe
That's
a
what
little
I
bit.
said.
That's John.
That's what I just...
I always thought John looked like your father.
That is
Yeah.
John.
I've
There
heard
is.
that before. What about
Oh,
my
yeah.
brother? Does he look like that?
No, your brother looks like your
Idella?
mother's. Oh yeah, your mother's. Your grandfather. Leatherwood's. Oh yeah, looks just like.
You know, he was trying to trace his roots, and he said, did he have any brothers and sisters? And I couldn't remember. And then I remembered that his sister married Bob Dramore's aunt, Jenny
Whose
Cohen.
sister?
My grandfather's
Oh, yeah?
sister. Did you know that?
No, I don't know much about your
Really,
grandfather on
yeah.
that side, except who was related to the Runsdorf, your grandmother? Huh?
Right, she was a sister.
To Mrs. Runsdorf?
Yeah.
Okay, who's this
Yeah.
here? She looks familiar.
That's Anna and Walter.
See, you got dozens of Anna.
Don't touch those.
Anna. Okay, I don't need to get all of these.
Anna. We went to a
Oh, this is
restaurant
good though.
with
Get
people
Anna and
called
Harry.
Anna,
Get
Anna,
that one.
Anna.
Anna and Harry.
You know, I didn't notice till recently that you have blue eyes.
You're kidding.
You never
No,
noticed?
didn't notice till recently.
Do you know my brother Jimmy has blue eyes? He's the only kid in
Really?
my family who has blue eyes.
Which
My mother
one
had
is,
blue eyes. My mother had blue eyes.
Which is the
My
one you want
father
me to
had
get?
hazel eyes.
This,
Do we have
Anna and
kids with
Harry,
blue eyes?
It's
husband and wife.
It's a recessive genes.
See, my mother has hazel eyes. My sister.
Richard has the exact same color eyes I do. My son
Anna
Richard.
and Harry.
Exactly. Yeah. And Michael's are darker, like yours, darker.
And yours are kind of a medium.
Mine are nothing. Mine are hazel. There's no color. It's brown, green, right? Funny color.
What, John and Lynn have brown eyes?
Danny has dark eyes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
None of your kids have blue eyes. Robert has blue eyes. My kids
Did your
didn't get
father
it.
have it?
My father had hazel.
Oh, hazel?
Bluish, yeah.
My grandfather, I think Grandpa had blue eyes.
Oh, really?
After, yeah.
That's Anna.
My mother had blue eyes.
See, there's umpteen pictures of Anna.
Quiet, you can't take that. I have to worry about, what's her name? Laurie, what's her
Laurie.
name?
Can't call her Libby, it's Lori.
It was Libby, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Not anymore.
Changed the nose and the name.
Well, my grandfather had blonde hair and my mother had really blonde hair
Yeah.
when she was little. Bleach blonde.
My kids were blonde.
I always had dark hair. I'm getting very
My
close.
sister swears
What
that
else,
she
Dan?
had blonde hair.
Very
when
close
she
to
was
the end
little. My
here.
mother says, no, you didn't.
Sure, you're gonna finish and leave me with this mess. See, now why am I keeping those pictures? I should give that to Philip.
Oh, I'm sure he really wants it.
Or their grandchildren, huh? What do I need?
Well, you know, I can make copies of these things so that they can all.
They don't
No
want
one
them.
wants
Don't
it, Dan.
bother.
Don't bother. Don't waste your time or effort. Right?
We'll take them.
What are we gonna do with pictures of my great uncles?
What? My son Richard.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
Hello. Hi, how are
We're
you?
in trouble because of both of
Good.
us.
You gonna be home?
Stuff. Oh, God, really?
For a little while?
Stuff.
I got Kay's here with her son Danny. They're doing
Danny?
Debbie.
Daniel and his fiancee Debbie. No, wait a minute. Robert, you want to talk to Richard now, or should I call him back later?
We'll call him back
Well, you're gonna be home, huh?
It's in California.
Yeah. I'll call you back.
Who's paying?
How long is this gonna take, Danny?
Oh, another 5 minutes.
I'll call you back in about 10 minutes. Okay. Bye-bye.
Is it cold out there?
I didn't ask, but I think it is supposed to be cold there.
You got a lot more to do?
No, just these.
Probably wait to put my chicken in the oven.
Chicken in the oven. I'll pick up this mess a little bit. And don't move the table, your son will kill you. Put that stuff in another bag. Throw everything out. Glad I don't have to go to work tomorrow.
Would you put the chicken in the upper oven, please? To take all the fat out?
Where did I find that
That's
picture?
In the upper oven. Alright. Lindsay, come over?
Did she go over?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it. Huh? What did I do with it? I don't think anybody My kids. Mainly. They don't know who this is. I'm gonna throw it away.
Moving conditions.
I have this, I used to collect them.
This is a good one. My father's relative. Now let me put these
baby. Can you?
How's she feeling? She and Sam, okay?
All right.
Don't they go to Florida in the winter?
Yep.
We're not interested.
Coffee cheese bread. That's good.
Here's a picture of Jimmy in the hospital when Charlotte had Shelley. He looked so young.
Dad, are you happy with your floor?
Yeah, except everything shows on the white.
Well, you knew that.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be.
But it's easier to maintain.
Oh, yeah.
Throw that away.
Something funny. Read this back. This he must have written that.
What's funny about it?
Well, him writing that out, I never even knew it belonged to them. History Lane.
Those are something, huh? I think that's a passport, or their.
You give them to her, right? You wouldn't keep
That
them
could
here.
possibly be their
Well, if I had
passports.
an album like that, I would.
Here. That says,
No,
yeah.
I'm saying, should I?
What's it say?
Should I stick it?
Yeah, just like- It says immigrant.
There's Shishi. There's Shishi. Yeah, she did have pictures. You don't see him, huh? Well, Howard still lives there. I know, but you ever see him? I'm not gonna go look at him.
Are you shaking something?
No.
What a shame. Oh, that's the thing you should do. Go look for some of those pictures.
One more.
Robert?
That's my great grandmother.
That isn't a very good picture.
Which one?
On the left.
I should get that picture. Why have I got this? Very small. Who's that? No idea. But he should be a famous author or something. Throw it away. Throw it away.
Sit here.
Oh yeah.